Hi. Thanks for coming to watch my presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine, and I will be doing a presentation on should same-sex marriage, also known as SB1, be legalized in the state of Hawaii. I decided to choose this topic because people tend to avoid discussing this topic because it's very controversial here in Hawaii, as well as the United States and the Western world. Also, I speak for those who are against same-sex marriage but choose to remain silent in fear of reprisals in which I have personally experienced. We'll be talking about, first off, definitions of heterosexual, homosexual, and marriage. I felt that these three things are very important with what I'll be talking about. Also, same-sex marriage and its history in Hawaii, opposed to SB1. Also, what the theologians, psychologists, sociologists, and philosophers teach about homosexuality. And finally, my conclusion. I'll save the questions, comments, and concerns till the end of the presentation. So, definition of heterosexual is a person sexually attracted to the opposite sex. A homosexual is a person that's attracted to the same sex. And the definition of marriage that I found in Webster's dictionary is a formal union of a man and a woman typically recognized by law, by which they become husband and wife. This is background history, just in the state of Hawaii. Let's see. Hawaii's same-sex marriage debate began in 1990, when two women applied for a marriage license, which led to a court battle, and in 1993, Hawaii Supreme Court issued its first-of-a-kind ruling that their rights to equal protection were violated by not letting them marry. That helped lead Congress to pass the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, also known as DOMA, in 1996, which prevented same-sex couples that were married in their home states from receiving the same benefits as a heterosexual married couple under federal law. In 1997, Reciprocal Beneficial Act was introduced, granting certain rights associated with marriage for homosexuals. The people of Hawaii ratified the Marriage Amendment in 1989. This exempts same-sex couples from protection of equality guarantee, giving the legislature the power to redefine marriage as limited to one man and one woman. 69% voted for the amendment, 29% voted against the amendment, and 2% left their ballots blank. In 2011, our governor, Neil Abercrombie, passed the Civil Unions Law, which grants homosexuals all the same benefits as married people, except for the word marriage. And lastly, on November 12, 2013, Neil Abercrombie signed a new law that same-sex marriage is now legal in the state of Hawaii. So, as you can see, same-sex couples, or a same-sex marriage, gives you these rights, which are the exact same rights that a heterosexual married couple has. And these are all things that they've asked for between 1990 up until now that they have received. From our legislature, same-sex Same-sex couples receive medical benefits such as hospital visitation or important medical decisions they're able to make. Same-sex couples receive family benefits such as adoption or foster care, child support, custody, and visitation. Same-sex couples receive employment benefits, medical insurance through partner's employer, taking family leave, or even taking bereavement leave while receiving wages. Also, same-sex couples do freely celebrate their commitment toward each other. Same-sex couples do have access to the same benefits enjoyed by heterosexual married couples. Same-sex marriage is protected by the Constitution's commitment to liberty and equality. It's also easier for same-sex couples to adopt, as I said earlier. Same-sex marriage will harm heterosexual marriages, our family values, causing society to not function correctly. Same-sex marriage should be limited to religious objections. And I believe that it is not a civil right. This is just a quick, short clip that I decided to put in here because I feel that if same-sex marriage becomes more popular, I guess you could say, this could be something that we may be seeing in our future.
Dad, now that you're gay, I don't have to have sex with you, do I? Not unless you want to. Oh, my muffins are ready.
A person does not have the right to deny another from their pursuit of happiness, so long as it does not infringe on the right of another. Therefore, I strongly oppose SB1, which is the same-sex marriage law. My reasons being, I am for equal rights for all people, including gays. What I am not for is the redefining of marriage and the ramifications that have impacted the communities where same-sex marriage has become law. For example, some parents have lost their rights to have their children, K through 12, opt out of same-sex indoctrination. In fact, in an extreme case, a parent was arrested. This occurred in Massachusetts, the first state to legalize gay marriage. I'm not saying this will happen here in Hawaii, if it is passed, but I do not trust the government, and therefore I am not willing to take that chance for my child and for our future generation. What do the psychologists, sociologists, theologians, and philosophers teach about homosexuality? These are just some examples that I found in doing my research. This is from a book. Since relatively few homosexuals seriously try to change and few therapists encourage them to do so, the notion that homosexuality is irreversible, that homosexuality is irreversible is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If nobody tries, nobody will succeed. Working at oneself, let alone fighting one's undesirable self-centered habits and achievements, is not a popular issue in our permission and overindulging age. The species exhortation, accept yourself, became the species exhortation, accept yourself, becomes tantamount to surrender to immaturity on the one hand and repression, one's better me, on the other. The alternative to work at yourself is more difficult, but it is the only way to inner happiness and peace of mind. This is Pope Benedict XVI, something that he wrote himself about homosexuality. Family is based on the marriage of a man and a woman. This is not a simple social convention, but rather the fundamental cell of every society. Consequently, policies which undermine the family threaten human dignity and the future of humanity itself. These are some quotes that I found, not quotes, but they're verses from the Bible. A democracy is always temporary in nature. It simply cannot exist as a permanent form of government. A democracy will continue to exist up until the time that voters discover that they can vote themselves generous gifts from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidate who promised the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that every democracy will finally collapse due to loose fiscal policy, which is always followed by a dictatorship. So, as you can see here, this is just something that I found that I feel pertains to what's going on right now in the world. Not just with same-sex marriage, or it's not limited to that, but I believe that it has a lot to do with it. It's basically kind of like a history repeats itself, basically. So, as you can see here, it starts at bondage. From bondage to spiritual faith. From spiritual faith to great courage. From courage to liberty. From liberty to abundance. And from abundance to selfishness. From selfishness to complacency. From complacency to apathy. And from apathy to dependence. And right now, I believe that we are at dependence. From there, it goes back to bondage. This cycle takes about 200 years. And I believe that America is very well close to that. This is a video of a girl that she kind of speaks her mind, and I really enjoyed it, and I feel that we have a lot in common. What she explains in here is what I believe and what I stand for also, and I felt that I should share it with you. Oh, sorry. Not done yet.
Don't propagate your hate, because I have a higher standard on who you date. I'm not here to rally against what the government legislates. I simply don't support a line that is reprobate. Homosexuality is not innate. It is not a genetic trait. It cannot replicate the love between a man and a woman in which God did indeed create. Now, I can't dictate one's life and who they call soulmate. I simply don't want them to bake in a lake of fire for the name of love's sake. Homosexuality can only imitate. It will always be a counterfeit, a fake. It's like a poison that intoxicates the mind, saying you can't choose your own fate. The excuse to state that sexual orientation originates at birth is a tactic to eliminate the debate that every person has the power to regulate the choices that they make. Despite your opinion, it's always a choice with whom you fornicate. The media tries to educate that this behavior is something we must tolerate. to indoctrinate that this lifestyle should be considered normal, yet they fail to communicate the detrimental consequences to those that participate in male-to-male contact, calculate for the highest rate of new HIV and AIDS cases documented to date. The FDA won't hesitate to deny gay men who fornicate the privilege to donate to the blood bank because it violates the qualifications of a safe candidate. This is not to discriminate, but to demonstrate that same-sex relations devastate the health of many. And to advocate for this lifestyle is considered love, and to go against it is labeled hate. It's like they don't see what's at stake until it's too late. In the end, there are two gates, one that is golden and one that separates. So what's it going to be? Your mate or your fate?
My closing conclusion. As a practicing Catholic, I am filled with compassion and pray for those who struggle against unrelenting and violent temptation to homosexual sin. I pray for those who fall into homosexual sin and out of human weakness, that God may assist them with His grace. I am conscious of the enormous difference between these individuals who struggle with their weakness and strive to overcome it, and others who transform their sin into a reason for pride and try to impose their lifestyle on society as a whole, in shameless opposition to traditional Christian morality and natural law. However, I pray for them too. I pray for the judges, legislators, and government officials who in one way or another take steps that further homosexuality and same-sex marriage. I do not judge their intentions, interior dispositions, or personal motivations, or reject and condemn any violence. I simply exercise our liberty as children of God and our constitutional rights to free speech and candid, unapologetic, and unashamed public display of my Catholic faith. To the arguments in favor of homosexuality and same-sex marriage, I have responded with arguments based on right reason, natural law, and divine revelation. Lastly, I just want to leave you guys with this scripture from the Bible. It's from Matthew chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. And it says, Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Does anybody have any questions? Concerns? No? Okay. Thank you for listening. Have a good night.